So,
Yeah. You went to Harvard, didn't you? Did you go
well,
there
yeah,
first?
it's an interesting story, David. You bring that up. So, I graduated from, high school and all that. And, I was at a point where really I had, that group of friends I had mentioned, the kid that helped me out when I was getting beaten up, my friend Colin, who, still my good friend to this day. And, I had a small group of friends and all that. And I was, academically, I was always extremely smart. But, but the
Impressive.
problem is
So
that,
humble too.
yeah, I was
No,
always
I'm playing.
extremely smart, but I didn't apply myself because I was so distracted with social problems. When people,
Yeah.
you're talking to people, they're giving you issues, you're doing this stuff, you just can't solve it. And so what I had to do was I had to really figure out what I wanted to do in my life, and I really couldn't. I had spoken to my dad. I really wanted to be a doctor because not because I wanted to make the money, although that was good. I wanted to genuinely help people and do something. But I was also inherently lazy. So I said, I don't want to do all the work needed. I don't want to wait 8 years and go through school and do all this stuff. And I hated studying. I was a person that was um, academically street smart, if that makes sense, right?
It does.
I
Yeah, I
could,
can see that.
I could go on the road, right? I could go into the ghetto and be like, yo, what's up, yo, give me some of that stuff. And oh, cool, and then get $5 off the guy when he's trying to sell me something. He gives me $5, and then I walk away. And at the same time, I could walk into like the most professional environment and the suit on and shake their hand and impress a person. So I was always that way.
Okay.
And and a friend of mine told me it's better to um, you know you a successful person always has people who know how always work for people who know why.
Okay.
And so I
Yeah, yeah,
thought to myself, interesting. So he said, think about it. The PhDs usually aren't the business owners. They usually work for someone else's business, and that
mhm.
guy's an idea guy. And I thought, oh yeah, I want to be that guy. I don't want to be the PhD guy that's there. And and same thing with the doctor, right? Usually the doctors don't run the hospitals or own the hospitals, right?
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
usually some either hospitalist that has no degree, but a degree in medicine, but maybe has a degree in management that runs the hospital, and
yeah.
the
That makes
doctors
sense.
report to them, the CEO of the hospital. And it's sometimes they're doctors, but most of the time they're not. So my dad also told me that doctors don't get paid adequately per hour. So he
Mm.
said, go into engineering, business, or computers. And so I thought, okay, you know what? Let me try going into computers. So I decided I went to Stony Brook University. Actually, before that, I explored different colleges. I was trying to figure out where I wanted to go. And so I wasn't sure really. So I did like, non-matriculated classes at Stony Brook and Suffolk and all that stuff, trying to figure out where I wanted to go. I ended up going to Stony Brook, non-matriculated, did really well. And as I was in Stony Brook, my I started booming. Like I was able to like figure out what I wanted to do, and I also started hanging out with a lot of people from all different backgrounds. People who came from my background, which was like originally from India. Our parents are from India, and born here and stuff like that. And I was able to grow my personality and who I was, and kind of discover your roots. It's almost like an awakening.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I was able to figure out who I was and what the background was, and kind of take back my culture in a sense and my background, and say, hey, my parents came from here, and I met people who knew the same language. Though my mom used to speak to me in the language, I lost it as time went on, and so she stopped speaking to me in it, and so I was able to reclaim that, and so I started getting really in deep with my culture, and started and I started studying again, and I was still doing okay, but I wasn't doing superb. And while I was in school, actually, and this is an interesting part of the story that will probably get some people to roll their eyes. But while I was in school, there was a friend of mine who, approached me with a business concept. And the business concept was through one of those network marketing businesses. Okay.
So like a pyramid scheme.
Yep.
Okay.
Famous one that begins with an A. Okay. They're not,
Okay.
they're not really begins with an A, ends with a Y. Okay.
Mhm.
And Trump's um, old education secretary's husband is from the family that owns that.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Very nice.
So the DeVos family. So anyway, so now it's look, you could argue whether it was a pyramid or not, but it depends on how you put it together. But point is, one great thing that happened with it was it brought me around people that were professional and successful, and it taught me entrepreneurship. It taught me how to think like a leader. My dad was a business owner.
Yeah.
I always saw my dad and go to his office and seeing everyone like stressed out, working hard, small business. I always saw him getting up early, like 4 or 5 in the morning. I'm like, shit, I don't want to do that. And so I was like, there's got to be other ways to create an income. There's got to be other ways to do things. And so I thought, you know what? I got to do something. I got to build something. What can I do? What can I do? And so I started putting together, I just started putting together a team of entrepreneurs working under this guy and started helping people building what you'd say the pyramid, but I would debate whether it's a pyramid, but started building that stuff. And I felt good because I was actually helping people to succeed.
Yeah.
And
That's important.
I was growing my personality in that process. I was learning critical skills that I never got because, again, I didn't have friends, right? So I was learning skills like how to break the ice with someone, how to, go and really have a conversation, and how to, make new friends. And I was learning like social etiquette in some cases. What do I do when I go here? What do I do when I go there? So I was kind of growing up doing it in a way.
Yeah.
And it was something that I needed because it gave me a community to be a part of. And so, they had great products and stuff, but it also taught me the bad part of, capitalism, in it, where I had a need that I wanted to succeed so badly that like I would borrow my mom's credit card and order shit on it and, put like $10,000 or $15,000 on her credit card.
Yeah. That's unfortunate.
And I would do all that stuff just because I wanted to reach a certain level and get recognized.
Yeah. Well, do you think that's a bad, when you say bad part of capitalism? Sorry, I got something in my eye. When you say bad part of capitalism, that doesn't really sound like a bad part of capitalism. It sounds like a bad part of human nature.
It's a bad part of implementation of capitalism. In other words, it's greed kicks in, but greed not in the sense that I want to make money, greed for the attention and the spotlight.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's same it's a human nature concept, but the problem is there's not a lot of guardrails for that in capitalism.
Correct.
And that's the throw off. But yeah, no, I understand that.
Yeah,
So how did your mom? So that
she freaked out.
Okay, I was about to say
she freaked out. She said, "Get out of this thing." But she also saw that I had friends. Like I was hanging out with people, and she was amazed because these were good people. Like I would bring them to my house or something. They would hang out. They would clean up everything afterwards. They would be very respectful. She's like, wow, like you don't see young people doing that these days. They come, throw shit all over the floor, and then leave.
Yeah.
And or beer cans when no one drinks. They don't do any of this. It was like, oh, all right, normal stuff, just hanging out. And so so she used to kind of go along with it. Okay, fine. I'll buy a laundry detergent from you. Okay, fine. I'll do this stuff. But that shaped me a lot, and that taught me how to read books. I mean, if you see behind me, there's a lot of books.
Yeah.
I read a lot of books.
Do you really read them, or are those just for
I do. They're not just there. Like there's great books in there. There's one of my favorite books is How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Yeah.
Famous book. But there's another book called The Janitor. Great book, and it's a story about a guy who's a CEO who is so frustrated with his work, and so the guy's coming, changing his garbage and the thing, and he starts talking to the guy, and he's telling the guy all this stuff, and they're having a conversation. The guy's not the CEO, the guy's like a manager or something of the company, and he's really frustrated, and he's talking to the janitor, and he's telling the janitor his problems. The janitor's saying, you need to take a break, or you need to do this, or why don't you try doing this? And his life changes. Only to find out, and it says it at the beginning, only to find out that the janitor is actually the CEO who comes at the end of every day to clean up the garbages because he wants to talk to people and he wants to meet his team. And, and it's just a great story. And there's other ones like,
So that's like one of those, the Hidden Bosses shows.
Correct.
It's a smart way to figure out who's underneath you and how those people are.
But it's also a positive mental attitude. And I started becoming like, hey, you know what? I need to develop a positive mental attitude because, they always say that things like, if you think it and you believe it and you can make it happen. Can you do that? I don't know, but maybe, right?
Maybe.
So at the time though, I really believed it and I needed that because that brought me forward. That taught me how to be successful. It taught me, power of the spoken word, speak what you want as if you already have it. Right? And then you'll get it later. Right. And there's some truth to it, not because necessarily it magically shows up, but because it programs your mind to achieve it
Yeah,
right?
reorientate your whole entire aspect for it.
Say
Yeah.
like, I can do it. I can do it. I think I can. It's like working out, right?
Yep.
I don't want to. If you convince yourself every day that you're going to get in shape, it'll work. And I haven't been doing it. You can see I gained some weight, so
I didn't see nothing. I didn't notice anything.
application is all about. So these things are all about application and how you apply yourself.
Yeah.
And so, for me, I guess I got a stain here, but whatever. So, but
It looks like a logo. You could have just left it.
it's all good. Hey, you know what? You can edit that out. But
No, I can't. I'm not that good.
no, I'm saying edit out the statements.
Oh yeah, I can do that.
But what happens is, I needed that, and so at the time I built my confidence. I was able to, have a pretty good, undergrad at Stony Brook University in Long Island, and I did a good job there. When I graduated with a double major, 2 majors, and 3 minors. I did a major in electrical engineering, double major with applied math. I minored in biology because just maybe, I'll do medical one day. And then I did a minor in computer science and a minor in business management. At the same time, I was working because though my dad had money, I still wanted to earn my own things. So I would work about anywhere from 35 to 40 hours a week. So I was dedicated to making it. So I was doing an overload of credits, but I was also doing that.
Can I ask you a question real quick?
Sure.
Just in general. So at the beginning, you're talking about, going to school, you're doing well, but you were slacking because you were worried about your social skills. And in retrospect, you still did really well in school, but I'm assuming you still focused a lot on like how to network. That was kind of that whole thing.
Correct.
Would you say which one's more important? Are they equally important, or do you have friends who are like they didn't work on social skills at all, and they're Elon Musk and he's launching rockets in space? So, what do you think?
See, there's a trade-off, right? Elon Musk is maybe the exception, but typically, I believe, in all my experiences that education is great for a credential, and it teaches you, again, anything that you apply. It's all about how you apply everything, right?
Yeah.
Because one of my favorite movies is Good Will Hunting. You watch that movie?
I love that movie. Yeah.
So, he walks in, he talks to the girl, and he's like talking about history of the thing. And the guy's like, and he destroys the guy. And then you find out later he's got no education. He's got no degree. And he goes, how'd you learn it? I read a book.
Yeah.
What did you read? And it's like, holy shit. Like, so it's about how you apply the knowledge that you know. But he was screwed because he didn't have a credential.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
And so having the credential is great on paper. I always tell people, people make such a big deal about what school you go to. I'm like, look, you could go to a shit school, right? But if you know how to sell yourself, you can be at the top of the thing. Oh, what do you mean? I said, well, hey, there's a lot of kids who went to Stony Brook University that are working at Microsoft.
Yeah.
Because the school was good. Yes, academically, they understood, they came there and did it. But a lot of those kids had to sell themselves, and they knew how to do it, and they were able to get in there. It doesn't matter where you go, so long as you can apply. Education is good. It's good to have a good, well-rounded education. But, I always say, someone asked me, would you rather have a 2.97 student who didn't fail any classes, but, did that, but he has a wide range of extracurricular activities, or a 3.9 student who is academically far superior to everyone else, has high IQ and everything? And I always tell people I would take the 2.95 or 2.97 kid, and they go, why? Because the kid is able to function in multiple different areas.
Yeah.
Can he function at the top level? Maybe not. But put that kid in the other kid in those situations, he may fail. It's about, you can, as good of a product as you have, if you can't sell it, there's no point. So you could be the top engineer. Elon Musk succeeded not because of him, but because when he built his product, he was able to get people that were able to help him sell the product.
Yeah.
And I did a lot of studying into Elon. Elon didn't have the natural selling skills, the natural understanding. He watched other people, what they were doing in terms of marketing. So, for example, you look at Tesla. He had an idea to build. Well, actually, he was with PayPal before that, right?
Yeah.
And so he saw that this tool was there, right? And think about it. It's the perfect tool for an introvert because you're doing everything online.
Yeah.
You don't got to go on media. You don't got to do commercials. You just message someone and say, hey, would you like this? And so it's the perfect thing because he doesn't have to talk to anyone. He just says, hey, how would you like to send your messaging back and forth? He hired a marketer who told him, okay, 2, 3 lines, send the message here, right? Share money, transfer money, boom. And it boomed. And then he sold that. Then he said, hey, someone said, hey, if you can make an electric car, that'd be great. Okay. He went into Tesla. And he smartly hooked up with someone who knew how to do government contracts. He applied for a federal government contract under Barack Obama's administration, got almost 30 million in investment, started Tesla, and minted money since then.
Yeah, for real.
SpaceX and everything from there. But again, remember what I said. It's people who know why who are able to find people who know how. Right now, you have exceptions like, now, wow, I can't believe I forgot his name. The founder of Apple,
Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs, right?
Yep.
He's the exception. You think of him, right? Because, well, it's interesting because Steve Jobs knew why to do stuff, but he was also an excellent marketer. He knew how to get the information out. Okay, what he didn't know was how to do the coding as well. He wasn't a great coder, so he was able to find the coders, right? But he's also able to do great marketing. So the reason he was so successful and brought his every company he touched became successful is because he knew how to market the brand and what to do. By the way, for reference, for anyone watching this or for yourself, there's a great book called Start With Why by a guy named Simon Sinek. I don't know if you've heard of it. Start With Why.
No, I haven't. No.
Okay. So I'm not doing it justice to him, but there's videos online that explain it too. But he talks about the golden circles of marketing, and he talks about why Apple succeeds. And it says, you start with why. You talk about why, right? And then after, so it's like 3 circles. You start with why. Then the outside of it is you talk about how you do what you do, and then you talk about what. So he gives an example saying, here's a bad form of marketing. I'm Gateway Computers. Oh man, I have the best computer here, top of the line. You gotta buy it. You're gonna have everything you want. Boom, right? Okay, great. You told me everything. What you did, how you did it, right? But I don't know who you are.
Yeah.
I give an example saying you're walking through you're walking through the airport, and you see someone with an apple, right? And you ever notice the apple when you put it down, it faces the person who's looking at it, but actually when you turn it up, it's upside down for the people walking by.
I didn't notice that. No.
Yeah. So it's a stigma, right? So you look at it saying like, hey, I want to be part of that apple, apple culture, right?
Okay.
So, no, I think it's the other way around. Sorry, the apple is actually right side up for everyone looking at it, right? But when it comes to you, it's upside down, something like that. But he explains it on there, and he says, it's about a brand, it's about a feeling, and he says the reason my Apple succeeded so well is because they put out videos saying the crazy ones, right? Defying this one. They would talk about like Einstein. They would talk about crazy people. They said, be a little crazy. And so it's like, why? And so they say, you know what? We're different. We like to push the box. We do this. By the way, we have great computers here. We have great stuff here. Would you like to buy them?
Yeah.
I
like that.
So, you identify with them, and then you're able to tell them how and what you do.
Yeah, after that. I think that is highly I think I've seen that in multiple times in my life. That worked out well. And I think a lot of times people, all right, so side rant, had an art gallery for a while and I would host artists. And artists are naturally introverted. Like they're like nothing but Elon Musk's. And they phenomenal artists, but they didn't really talk about their art. They didn't know how to sell their art. And so as a gallerist or whatever, such a dumb word, but that's what it's called. I had to learn how to sell it for them and and kind of move them along. And since I'm an artist as well, but I'm pretty decent at talking to people, and I'm especially if I'm selling someone else's art, I can kind of look at the things that maybe other people see that the artist isn't paying attention to. But through that, I was like, hey, what would be really good for these people to be able to get to know the artists that are in this gallery if I sit them down and talk to them for an hour. Lo and behold, the Pardonable Podcast was born. And that's how this whole thing started, was me just sitting down with artists. But it was important for them because they were great artists, but they had no marketing. They couldn't sell. They could sell, but it wasn't complete. People didn't know who they were buying art from. And so when you start to learn like Banksy, no one knows Banksy, but everyone knows Banksy. Not the name, but the attitude. Like the guy shredded a painting that he sold. Like they might not know who he is, but they know who he is, as in like they know the attitude behind it. So he's a phenomenal marketer and doesn't even have his face out there. And so I always think about that as well. It's important for for that. Was that branding? People talk about the branding all the time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's good to know, again, why are you doing what you do? If you understand, you core yourself on why. What is your why? You know,
Yeah.
so that's something that I was able to build myself on and figure out who I was. And
I'm sorry I interrupted you again. Do you know what the one thing that people never pay attention to? You know what's a terrible why? I want to be rich. That doesn't tell a story at all. Everybody wants to be rich. Why would you? Like Steve Jobs.
what?
Yeah, well, that would be what. But a lot of times, people's why, like, why do you want to build an electrical car? And like, because I'm going to be rich. And like, well, that's a terrible why. And that might be your true why, but that doesn't tell a story. That just you seem surface level, like shallow. It's a terrible why. And I was just thinking about that. Anybody who has a why that seems shallow, you're not going to do well because there's no depth to that. Say like, I want to build a company. Well, why do you want to build a company? Because I want to transport people from Earth to Mars. Now that's a good why. Like it's one of those things. Anyway, I interrupted you.
No, you're 100% correct. And, understanding why is so important. I mean, that is a lifeblood of everything we do. It has to be your focus. I mean, you look at it, and I'll weave in. I'll do the Trump weave, and I'll bring in something here because
Love it.
he you look at him. He understands why he's doing what he does. He roots everything in why. Make America great. What's my goal? My goal is to make America great, right? How do I do it? I'm going to do it by deporting. I'm going to do all this stuff, right? What is it I'm doing? I'm setting policy for you and changing America. And it's interesting because his why and what are kind of the same, right?
Absolutely.
But it's interesting because it works, and he starts with that. And so effective marketing is always that way. And so these are things that I learned that helped me move forward. And so when I was at time to graduate my undergrad, and I remember this very well. I graduated my undergrad in Stony Brook. My good friend Colin came. It was a big deal for me. He gave me a big hug and did it. My parents didn't come for my graduation, even though they were 10 minutes away, because they were so busy at their office that day working that they didn't show up. And they were like 10 minutes away and they didn't show up.
No.
I remember that my undergrad. Now they were there for my master's graduation, but that's not the same. Like the master's graduation, you don't have the kids sitting there throwing the balls. You just go into a conference room and or like the gymnasium, small area. You go, hey, congrats, here you go. And you're done because it's a division.
Yeah.
And so they missed that big one, but my friend was there for the graduation, and and so that was something I'll always remember. For it, and they know it. I mean, look, my parents have been great to me since then. They've done. I think they knew that they made that mistake, but what happened to me as I got older was when I graduated, I started working my dad's company a little bit because I was just trying to find something to do and figure out what I wanted to do. And I got called by Accenture, actually, which is a consulting company.
Okay.
And I worked for them. And I was able to move up their ranks and become the youngest project manager in the entire country in information technology, in IT.
Yeah.
And I mean, and it's just a series of coincidences. Consulting company, they sent me to New Jersey, hanging out in New Jersey, right? I was working for Bristol Myers Squibb. They were building some new IT infrastructure. We were using a tool called Web Methods. Anyone watching this would know what, if you look it up, it's a IT tool and stuff that pharmaceutical companies use. And I remember I was sitting there, and the partner came in from Seattle or something, and he flew in. He was meeting the customers, and we had a consultant who was our project manager. The level is analyst, which is where I was, consultant. Then you have like project manager, and then you have like executive, and then you have like partner, something like that. Okay, or senior manager, whatever, senior consultant. In between, you had other things. So anyway, so I was an analyst. I was on the bottom, and they go, "Oh, hey, the lady comes in. She goes over to him and goes, "Sir, I'm actually want to let you know something. I'm 7 months pregnant." He goes, "Okay, so I won't be able to continue on." He goes, "Who's going to manage the project? I'm not coming from Seattle." The guy was like freaking out. "I'm not going to come in and run this from Seattle. There's no one else in between us here. Who's going to run this program?" He's like, "Well, I don't know, but sir, I have to leave today and go there." Okay. So the guy starts walking. He's coming down the area where we're sitting, and he goes, "Who's going to run this program?" And he goes, "You." And he points to me and said, "Sir, you're pointing to me." He goes, "Yeah." I said, "Why?" He goes, "Your last name begins with A. You're the first one here." And I'm like, okay. you're the program manager. I said, how do I do that? He goes, here's her computer's there. Go and find something project management or program management. I'm like, oh shit. And so then I like got her computer. I figured out how to get in, and then I was like, project management. Then I saw something that said project plan. I'm like, is that part of project management? I think so. So I'm like, okay. So I open it up and I'm trying to figure it out. And needless to say, I figured it out and I was able to help run that program further. Then they moved me on to another contract over in Kansas City. I was doing great on that contract as well. And then my mom wasn't well, and I said, okay, let me come back to Long Island. And, I stayed with Accenture for another 6 months, working kind of out of their New York office and somewhat remotely as well. And then, I decided, you're Indian, right? Indian people always, there's always pressure on you to get married or move on in life, but you need a credential, right? So you need to have a master's degree. So I decided to go and get a master's degree at Stony Brook because it was an easiest master's degree. Found a sucker, a Chinese professor who was willing to give me, half the there's 30 credits. He waived 15 of the credits. He's like, take these 3 classes and you're done. I said, shit, that's great. I said, I have industry experience. None of these people have it. They're all useless, blah, blah, blah. And I was able to convince him. And so he waived all the 15 things. He had to write a waiver and all that. I wrote it for him. He signed it, and we did it. So I got a master's degree. And then I started working at Forest Labs, Forest Pharmaceuticals. I worked for them for a little while. And that was great.
So wait, can I stop you real quick?
Yeah.
When you got your master's degree, did you feel any different?
I did. Well, actually, it's interesting because when I got my master's degree, I started taking MBA courses first.
Okay.
And I thought of getting my MBA, but the school wasn't accredited. So I said, okay, let me go for a master's degree. And so when I took the MBA courses, I'm sitting in there and I'm like, and meanwhile, keep in mind, I'm still in the network marketing business. So I'm still reading all this stuff, getting hands-on experience and dealing with people and understanding objection and all that stuff. I'm still doing all that stuff, even though I'm working, I'm doing all this other stuff. I'm still building that in parallel. And I'm watching these people saying like courses on like how to deal with no. I'm like, this is a professor teaching this shit. I could do it better than you. I'm like, what a piece of crap. Like, how you doing? And then, project manage, like when they're teaching project management, they teach it using a simulation online, which says like, what would you do in this case? How would you? I'm like, that's not project management. Like, you need to roll up your sleeves. Like Trump likes to visit the, construction site and see what's happening and then go and say, here's what we do. Right. Rather than just sitting in the office saying, show me the plans. Where are you? Show me the pictures. Oh shit. You're this one, you're delayed, you're behind and all that stuff. No, Trump's like, hey, let me see what's going on. I'm that way too. So I'm like, hey, I need to be involved in what's happening.
That seemed to give you a leg up because I don't know if most people want to put that kind of work into it, especially if you're being told that you don't need to. Like the idea that, especially in those particular courses, like, well, here's a simulation, and another kid next to you in class is like, yeah, that's all I need to know. It's a disservice.
It's a disservice, and education is that way because, look, I asked the professor. I remember when he did that. I said, "What programs have you run?" He said, "None." But he got an MBA, and he understood how to do it. And he'd been a professor.
Those who can't teach. That's
right, and that was something that was bothering me because I said, "How many businesses have you started? How many of you succeeded? How many of you, And then I met one guy who said he ran a business for like 15 years. I Googled it quickly, and he was like, "Yeah, the business went under in 2 years, and I was teaching." and he's teaching how to run a successful business. So
oh no!
It's like
failing up.
But he's teaching you based on theory.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, okay. And theory. I got a theory. He shouldn't be teaching. That would be my theory.
But see, they don't vet that way, right? No. And that's what happens in politics too. By the way, right? What Trump realized, like
easily,
you bring in these people who have a theory on how things should work, but they don't have success in the practical application. But man, they're well versed in policy. They're constitutionalists. Let me bring them in. They've been in the industry for 30 years. But what success happened under them? Well, the successes and failures happen under them. So they know both. And then what happens? It fails. They go, it's not our fault. It's your fault because you were directing me. But you had the experience. So what? But you were directing me. Or you're the one who applied what I said wrong. It's like, if you're not teaching me what to apply right, how can I learn? So that's establishment mentality, essentially.
Yeah,
right? And people who've been doing it for way too long and they've been stuck in the rut. And so, for me,
To be honest, I don't have a problem with people who have the establishment mentality. I don't have a problem with them being that way. I do have a problem with them when they say that they know better, because that condescending, prideful, like I know how it works. If you can think establishment mentality all you want, as soon as you start to pretend like you're the expert in that matter, that's when I start to brush up against it. You know what I'm saying? That stuff bothers scrappy. I wouldn't do well in that sphere whatsoever.
yeah, and same thing here. I'm the exact same way. Like for me, it's all about being able to. For me, it's all about being able to survive, essentially, right? And being able to understand how you can thrive,
Wait,
right?
what do you mean by that?
Well, I
The
mean, look,
survive part?
like, I guess, well, how did you interpret what I said? Let's put it that way.
Well, survive. It seemed like you wanted to keep your job. That's instantly, and stay in the game. Like that's what I thought about survive when you said
And,
that.
then,
Like, yeah,
and in some ways, that's correct, but it's about surviving in the sense of, look, nobody teaches you how to survive. Let's be frank,
true,
right?
true. Yeah,
Nobody teaches you how to survive. They teach you how to exist. They teach you how to move forward, but they don't truly teach you how to survive. For example, someone breaks into my house, say I call 911, right? But do I really know how to beat the crap out of the guy? Maybe. I mean, I get into a little fight. He'd probably beat me up if he's seasoned in doing it, right?
yeah.
Do I do I
If you're Paul
know
Pelosi and he has a hammer, you might not stand a chance.
exactly? He may not stand a chance, or if he throws the hammer too, even
No,
worse.
yeah,
But you know, it's one of those things where um, you have to know how to uh, street skills are not taught in school. Street
yeah,
smarts is not taught, right? And so that is where we lose. It'd be fascinating if someone started a school and basically called it Thugonomics 101 and basically put you on the street and walked in every day. And it's like classrooms dressed like a street with
yeah,
desks, but the desks are all over the place. You can sit if you want, right? You come in and you try to swindle something from someone,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
I mean, there's ethical concerns and doing stuff like that. But the point is, hey, you know what? Like ethics don't apply to life. How do you handle this situation? Someone's trying to sell you drugs. What do you do? Right? These are things we're taught what to do, but we don't learn how to apply. And that's why you have problems in life. And
yeah,
you
yeah,
have to, and in some ways, I tell people best way to learn is through learned experience because the system doesn't teach it. And so that means you have to fail and
yeah,
be able to get back up. The problem is if you fail and there's no one there to help you back up, you keep failing, you keep falling.
yeah,
Someone's got to put their hand. Or if someone doesn't put their hand, you got to have a mechanism to know where to get back up. And that's why people fail, because when you fail, you keep failing, you keep failing, you keep failing, and there's no one there. And that's why we have a poverty crisis. We have economical issues because people don't know how to build an extra income or how to run a business,
yeah.
or even how to start a business, which is something I'm very passionate about.
Yeah, I agree.
Starting a business. I mean, I help people get certified. People can get, $500,000, $600,000 from the Small Business Administration today, right?
Yeah,
Just for starting your business. I mean, that's insane. You know,
it really is,
you know,
especially in today's economy where half
yeah,
your businesses can be run strictly online. You
yeah.
don't even have to have a store.
People don't even realize when Donald Trump left, he said that the Small Business Administration, December 2020, should give 60% of their contracts to woman-owned businesses.
Yeah,
I mean, he's a horrible misogynist. I mean,
yeah, he really is.
he's just horrible. And then Joe Biden comes in, and Trump put in a clause saying you must be, but the woman must prove that they're biologically a woman.
Right?
Joe Biden comes in and removes that, and then you get people who are saying, "I feel like a woman today," getting their driver's license changed and then bidding on the contract, getting $350 million, then going, "Hey, rules are the rules."
It's almost as if Biden hates women
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, he
because
helps
they
them,
probably all remind him of his wife.
yeah, or himself in the
Yeah,
mirror.
that's true.
So,
Yeah, yeah,
but that I mean, so these are so for me, my life was about trying to figure out who I was, and so when I finished my master's degree, my parents pushed me hard to say hey, now it's time to get married, find a good Indian girl or do something and try to settle down. And I had an older brother who was very whitewashed. He didn't go through the experience I did, multicultural environment like me. He didn't do that, right? So he was very very whitewashed. Like it was like like he didn't talk to any of the Indian people he met and all that stuff. And so, I kind of went down that route. It was a tough situation, and then but luckily I have a daughter who's a little
very
bit
nice.
older. She's amazing girl. So that's why sometimes you may hear noise in the background with her shouting and stuff. But that's she enjoys life, and I mean, her mom and I don't, we're just totally different. But but that helped me realize those areas of life, and whether I was ready to or not, and how to move forward in life and all that. So those are things that were tough for me. But she's a great woman. She did a lot of great things in India and all that stuff. But while I was doing all that stuff, in the same time, right around that time, right after I did my master's, I started working. I think I was mentioning Forest Pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
After I worked there for a couple of years, and then I moved on to Honeywell, and I became like a senior person at Honeywell. And I was part of
Why
the.
does Honeywell sound familiar to me?
Honeywell's like they make the thermostats and all that stuff.
That's why.
Right, thermostats. They make
That's my industry.
Space heaters and all that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So
I was like the first name I recognized. I was like, I know that one. Oh, that's because of contractor.
That's right. I was working with their connected homes group, which was like their alarm systems and connecting it to like your phones. Fascinating stuff. It was great. And I was working with them. It was awesome. And then basically I got an opportunity to go to Harvard Business School and get an executive program from Harvard Business School.
Very cool.
I'm exactly equivalent to an alumni today from Harvard Business School. So I have the same credential or in terms of level of access to the Harvard network as a MBA student. Okay. I essentially got it paid for, and I didn't have to take exams. Okay. But I got to be around a group of, the top echelon of thought process people from across, the world pretty much, who came there to it, and was able to have thought think tanks. And I thought to myself, these think tanks are more powerful than any course I took. I mean, those courses are designed in a way where, it'd be like me, you, and 10 other people sitting in a room. Professor comes in and goes, I want you to read this case study. And the study will talk about like a guy who started a business, and, he was having an argument with someone in there, and this and that happened. And then here are the numbers that happened and stuff. What should this person have done wrong differently? And people raise their hands saying like, he didn't motivate his staff, or, his staff, sailed on him, or they, and you see the ideas, you're like, wow, some of that I thought, wow, I never thought of that. Whoa. Like, you're like, whoa. And people are thinking these ideas and all are right. And in the end, you hear them say like, and here's how he resolved the issue. And then they give you the second part of it, and they'll tell you it, or they'll give you different, or they'll ask you to do it if it's a brand new one. And then they'll use your research as part of the stuff to give him, because they're consulting with those companies saying, this is pretty cool. That's how they make money too, off you. Even
I was about to say, that's how they get free services out of their students. That's genius.
Right. And you pay to go there to give them free services so that they can get more money from their customers. Amazing.
Very cool.
So, but that's what happened. So, but it was one of the best places because the knowledge in the room. But what was fascinating was, teacher came one day and said, I need you guys to read these books, How to Win Friends and Influence People. I'm like, people writing it frantically. One girl was like taking it, putting it in like Amazon right away to buy it. It was like Les Giblin, Skill with People. I'm like, what? I've already read all these. Yeah. I read all these. And like they were talking about Start With Why. They talked about so many other books they were reading. And I was like, I've read all these. And they were talking about like The World's Greatest Salesman, which is like Og Mandino. And they were talking about these books. And I'm like, holy shit. And people are like, why aren't you writing this down? I said, I've already read these. I own them. Like, what do you mean you already read them? And so I was still in the network marketing business at the time. So I'm like, telling people like, hey, I'm reading this stuff. And I started realizing that, that like the people I'm associating with in the network marketing business are like Goodwill Hunting.
Yeah.
In the sense that they have this knowledge there, right? Whether they apply it or not, and whether the vehicle they were using through this, I guess I'm not allowed to say the name of the network marketing business, but begins with A, ends with Y. So with them, whether that's the right vehicle for them or not, they were getting the knowledge. And I thought to myself, wow, Harvard is recommending this, Harvard Business School, but they're reading a book that I'm reading here with a regular average Joe who maybe works at a Subway, somewhere down the road, who's learning the success principles. I was like, wow, That's free enterprise. Like that's pretty cool because
That is
people are learning how to do it, even though it, you could call it a pyramid, you could call it this, and that, you could call it all this stuff. But those people were becoming better, at least from learning those tactics. Now, there was other things people were doing there, like forcing you to come to meetings and paying money to go to those things, and other things that were just maybe a little bit dicey in how they do it,
Yeah.
and the structure of the products and some of the price. The products are good, but pricing may be a little expensive. So so some of those, but the concept of the education and teaching people how to own a business and teach them entrepreneurship is bar none.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, that's true.
And that's something that I want to dedicate my spare time to. I'm just trying to find good customers and clients to mentor people to run a business.
That's awesome.
Successes principles. Hey, let me be your consultant. Put me on a retainer, $100, $200 a month, something cheap, and I'm happy to be available to you at least 2-3 hours a week to help you and succeed and move forward in what you're doing. And then I'm helping people get certified for businesses. It's a side hustle of mine right now. When I finished doing that, I started working a couple of other jobs and all that, and then I got laid off, and this is like before, I guess just before Trump, I got laid off,
Okay.
and under Osama, right, as I call him. So and so when I got is this gonna get shadow banned now?
No, it's not. I'm just. I don't think so. I don't think so. Why would it get shadow banned? No.
I don't know. I mentioned Osama, right? So
That's fine. I've said a lot worse. It's fair.
All right. So anyway, but so what, I got laid off, and that was a wake up call to me because I'm like, man, I got to make my ends meet. How am I going to do this? And I can survive on unemployment. I can survive on this stuff.
Yeah.
How do I do this? And so I was like, I need another income and I need to do stuff. And so that's where the network marketing was like, hey, I got some money coming in from this at least. Hey, so I started doubling down a little bit on that, putting a lot of time, but that strained my family, strained my lifestyle, strained my parents who had a problem with me, everyone. I started doubling down, pushing down on it. And I started losing relationships, friends, everyone. And I also started getting stronger into politics at that time because I was like, you know what? I wanted to understand what is about our country because that's what they talk about in these books too, is about free enterprise and thinking positively and uplifting. And I think in 2015, I went to an event in New York City run by Donald Trump. It was a veterans event. And I was in New York City. I forgot how I got invited, but and I walked into the room and there was this guy who had like his leg cut off. Okay.
Yeah.
He was standing there with he had like
diabetes.
No. I don't know. He was a veteran or something. And he had lost I know. And he had like a metal leg, like Lieutenant Dan, right? When he had
you
metal
got
leg.
no legs. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And he had, but one of his legs was gone. His name was Mr. Trump. How can a person like me get a job here? Look at me. Like, no one's going to hire me on your construction. He said, that's why you don't have a job. And he said, because of my leg? He goes, no, because the way you're thinking.
Yeah.
You think you don't want it, you're not going to get it. You'll never get one if you're going to think that way. You got to believe you can do it. Hey, you got a great smile. Why can't you have a job? You're working. You're willing to work hard. He goes, yeah, I am. He goes, yeah, I'm going to. And I saw the guy was like, I can do it. I can do anything. He goes, hey, you know what? Maybe you can do that. Maybe, can you use your hands? He goes, yeah. Can you sit down? He goes, yeah. Can you type something? Sure. He goes, then you could do that job. Stop letting your problems be the thing hurting you from moving forward. And I was like, wow. It's like, this is what I hear in the network marketing business too, but there's a guy in the real world doing it.
Yeah.
Like, okay. And then I saw him doing other stuff. And I saw him like some lady started like crying and saying like, I can't, like I lost, she was a Gold Star family. She had lost like her son, her husband or something. And she was crying and stuff. And she says, I have no income. The government's not taking care of me and all this. And this is before he announced he was running for president.
Yeah.
But I think it was like February 2012 or something, 2015. And I saw him look at her. She goes, I don't have an income. I don't have any skills. I can't get a job. And he calls some lady in the back. She says, come up here. He says, I want you to hire this lady here. And she goes, ma'am, how much do you need to break even? She said, $40,000 a year. I want you to hire her for $45,000. And then the lady said, but sir, that only gives me $5,000. He goes, it gives you, he said, he looked at it. He said, he goes, maybe I should fire you then. And
Yeah.
He goes, I'm giving you an opportunity here to break even and make 5,000 a year. And she goes, thank you, sir. I would love that opportunity. He goes, good. And then as she's walking out, he whispers to his says on the microphone to the secretary, give her 55. She's like, oh my God, oh my God, I'm going to make 15,000 a year. I'm going to have 15,000 like in profit a year, whatever, right? Which is a big deal. And so, she was really happy and jumping up and down and all that. And he wasn't doing, there was no cameras, there was no media, right? And I was like, wow, that's like the power of entrepreneurship in a positive way. And I was like, there's got to be something that I can do.
Do you do just business consulting? You do political consulting?
I would love to do political consulting. I'm just not able to get into any place that does it because they're all saturated, or you got to know someone and whatever, do shady shit to get into with people to do it. But I'd love to do political.
But you understand the concept of political consulting?
Oh yeah.
So how much difference do you think it is between business entrepreneur consulting and running a campaign?
Well, I mean, a campaign is a business. I mean,
right? That's kind of what I was thinking, but I'm not in that world.
And a campaign is 100% a business, and so the business, you have a principle always, right? And so your goal is to protect the principle, but also to elevate the principle.
What do you mean by that? What's the principle of business?
Well, the principle is the candidate. I mean, in this case, the candidate, right?
Yes. Oh, the product. I thought you meant
be the president or the CEO, right?
Yeah.
But also understand that there's two entities in the business. There's the company and there's the ownership.
Yeah.
Right? And so when the owner looks good, the company should look good, right?
I agree.
So when the company looks good, the owner should look good. A lot of candidates focus so hard on building the candidate, the campaigns. They don't build the campaign. Yeah. So, for example, notice how so many people they talked about how Kamala Harris ran an amazing campaign.
Yeah, I still don't understand that.
But she did. But she was a horrible candidate. So she built a great campaign because she ran it in a certain way where, she was at the right place at the right time. She was able to energize a certain crowd of people. She was able to bring in fundraising. She met her goals.
True.
Business met all the goals. The problem is that they built this brand. They were focusing on building this, but not allowing this to grow. So you have to organically grow the brand along with the officer or with the principal, right? Unfortunately, people focus so much on building one, they don't build the other. So sometimes they'll say, this is a great, like they say, Trump is Trump. His campaign was horrible in the last few weeks, but look at him, he won. Why? They built so much Trump as the candidate, but the Trump campaign was like, man, this was a horrible campaign. I mean, they let
wait, hold on, stop. People said it was a bad campaign this time around?
They say he did a great job in his messaging, but his campaign had some flaws.
How? Where?
Well, they're saying the last couple of weeks, like he didn't go to the second debate, the strategies, he didn't do another debate.
Who said that? This campaign
all the establishment people. Right?
Oh my God, they're dumb. They're completely dumb.
But what they don't understand is the Trump campaign was very smart. They decided we're going to build our candidate, and we're going to make our candidate the campaign. So the candidate built the campaign. So these two, they were looking at it as two entities: Trump campaign, Trump. Trump campaign is dumb because they're making dumb decisions not to do the 60 Minutes interview, not to do the stuff which has been proven before this election to move the needle, which was proven to do this stuff. So they're not doing it. And then you have the candidate who they say, well, he's flawed. He makes comments. He does all this stuff. Well, guess what? What Trump campaign was saying is, you guys are idiots because they're one and the same.
Yeah.
And it's like,
it blows my mind that someone, and I get it, and I keep trying to tell people this. I've had arguments with people who run campaigns this entire year, had arguments with them. And they're real hard up with Trump is not doing a good job on a campaign. And I kept trying to explain to them, old school politics isn't, and I'm not even a politics guy. I was like, I'm telling you, the game's changed. This isn't how you do it. And those same establishment people are like, well, he should go on 60 Minutes. Definitely don't go to McDonald's, except for that McDonald's thing pushed the needle farther than any 60 Minutes thing. And even Trump himself on Rogan was like, I thought it was a throwaway. I was just going to go do this thing and maybe there'd be a few people. I didn't think it was going to blow up, but it did. It has one of the most iconic photos of his entire campaign. It's him leaning out of a McDonald's window waving. It's stuff like that. The garbage truck vest, putting that on and doing a press conference from the window of a garbage truck would have been like, oh, this is a bad, look at this dumb thing that this campaign's doing. Correct. Wrong. You don't, the problem with establishment people when they're in this They have no concept of what the culture around it is.
Hold on, just to be
None
fair.
whatsoever.
If Nikki Haley tried what Trump did, it would have failed.
You're right. It would have failed.
If Marco Rubio tried it, it would have failed.
You're right.
If Jeb Bush tried it, George Bush tried it, it would have failed.
But you can't just
Ron DeSantis
lay
did
that
it,
out.
it would have failed.
But that's kind of my point is there is no playbook. And it seems like all they want to do is playbook. This worked in the past. It moved the needle. Let's just do that again and regurgitate it. And that's what I'm saying. The game doesn't work that way anymore. And even if Kamala would have hired me for a campaign manager, I would have done things completely different, but she would have done better just because all of the mistakes they made didn't look like mistakes to them, but to the outside world, to the average person who was genuinely like, all right, let me hear this lady out. Did horrible, man. She did horrible. I don't care how much money she raised. She didn't reach any. I mean, she could have done small things.
I told people, I said, Kamala Harris in end of September after the debate, she should have done an interview and said, look, I know you all think that I'm tied to Joe Biden. Joe and I are good friends. I've known him for a long time. I was in the room on a lot of those decisions. But frankly, Joe made those decisions.
Yeah.
And that's okay that Joe made those decisions. If I had the opportunity, I would have done things differently. And why would I have done things differently? I would have done it this way, and I would have done it like this, and I would have done it like this. But their problem in their campaign was the candidate.
The
candidate didn't want to move. The campaign was in all the right places and all the right stuff. If you kept everything the same, but you changed the candidate, like Hillary Clinton would have won this election if she was there.
You
because
think so?
Of all the negatives around Trump and the fact that she would have said, hey, I'm going to answer this stuff and how I do it. Because people were hungry I want change. Look, people voted for Trump that didn't like Trump, but because they couldn't vote for her. Because they said, what is she going to do? She's going to keep it the same as Joe. Hillary would have said, fuck Joe.
Yeah, that's true.
He's an idiot, right? He doesn't know what he's doing. She would have called him out right away. Kamala wasn't willing to do that. The campaign apparently told her several times, like, you need to distinguish yourself from Joe. Now, you could say she's loyal. That's great and all that. But I think it was also, she went on 60 Minutes or whatever, The View, and they asked, what would you do differently than Joe? She said, nothing. And then later she even said, I'd hire a Republican in my cabinet. Well, how is that going to help the economy? Like, it's about understanding and accepting the issues that you did. And Trump, to his benefit, said, look, you know what? I made a lot of mistakes in hiring people. He at least admitted that, and people go, okay, you did. And,
Yeah, well, because he's authentic, and that's the difference. His entire thing was authenticity, and she couldn't muster up an ounce of it. And I think it's because she's so used to being politics and failing upwards that the game to her is completely different. As long as she raises enough money and they can spend enough money, she thought it was in the bag. And as long as she gets Queen Latifah and Oprah to back her, then she's good to go. And it didn't work that way. Exactly. And that's not how politics works anymore. But it's the same thing with business. And people keep the same business model. It's like that Netflix story. Where Blockbuster had an opportunity to buy Netflix, and they're like, no one's going to mail in DVDs. And then a few years later, they went under because they didn't think they couldn't move on their feet. It's Good Will Hunting all over again. It's people who read the books and regurgitate it word for word, but don't have a clue what it says. And then you have Will Hunting, who's read all the books and has them memorized because he understands the concepts of how knowledge works and can apply it at that moment in time.
He understands.
Yeah, exactly.
But look, he's missing the other things, the soft skills. Well, actually, he has some soft skills, street skills, but he doesn't have the foundation of a community of people that he can talk to. He's a loner, pretty much. I mean, he's got that one friend.
I agree, but I think I disagree in one aspect because there's multiple times where it seems, and I don't know why we're discussing Good Will Hunting, but it applies for sure. He had the street smarts. He knew how he could play the game. He just was so, like, think about him doing the equation on the board, right? And they were asking, like, who did this? And he didn't come forward because he didn't want to be a part of that. And then when they tried to get him, like, you could do this, you could go in, you could start moving here. He, like, withheld. And in the movie, I was like, I think he's just afraid of success. And later on, you kind of find out he is. He doesn't want to leave his friends. He doesn't want to move out of South Boston. He doesn't. And he's afraid to step forward into a future that is unrecognizable to him. Even Robin Williams brought that point up. I think that's where his failing was. How did you feel about the movie Good Will Hunting?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And, it's fascinating how these things work. I mean, because, that movie is a good symbolization. I mean, you gave a great kind of synopsis, but, he was stuck in a bubble of what he knew was his life.
Yeah,
He didn't
exactly.
know. So this is what I was trying to say to you. He didn't know how to apply the knowledge that he had because the knowledge he had wasn't appreciated in his environment. So he knew how to apply. He knew how to be like, "Yo, how do you like them apples?"
Yeah.
But if he went up to him and say, "Yo, take that apple. It's got 5 million seeds in it. 5 million seeds will times this one. We'll give you this one. You'll end up with 5 million trees from that." And the guy goes, "What?"
Yeah.
You know,
Doesn't work the same.
Right. He doesn't know how to do it. So he has the knowledge, but the knowledge is subdued.
Yeah.
And eventually the knowledge makes you crazy because you can't let it out. You can't show it anywhere. You can't build anything. You can't do anything with it.
Yeah.
So you're actually degrading. He's actually degrading himself, mentally, because he's hanging around people that don't have the intellect he has. And so that movie kind of showed you a lot of those kinds of things. And it's a good metaphor for life.
It is. One of the best parts about that movie, and I think it's a conversation Ben Affleck has with him while they're on the construction job site, where he gets mad at him. He's like, "You're smarter than me, and you're wasting it here." And so Matt Damon's character has all the knowledge, all the expertise, all of the intellect, and Ben Affleck had the wisdom, none of the other stuff, but had the wisdom to realize, like, you're wasting it doing what I'm doing, and that is insulting to me when you could be doing better. Good Will Hunting might be one of the greatest movies ever written. Put that aside, I agree. I think it applies to how people run campaigns, how people run business. If they have all the knowledge, they have all the stats, we watch this all the time. Where I've had conversations with people who are extremely smart, don't know how to apply it in any functional way to make anything better. That's why they're stuck in their own expertise bubble, and they still can't understand why nothing's making sense. It's the Kamala thing all over again. She's like, it's all the people that came out this week were like, she ran the greatest campaign. What was the issue? Well, it's all the white people voting. It's all the racism, or it's all the
candidate. It's simply the candidate.
It's simply the candidate. But that doesn't seem to fit in the category of why it explains it. And I think the reason is because they're too smart to understand how the world actually functions.
The candidate has to adapt to the campaign, or the campaign has to adapt to the candidate.
I agree.
When you are operating as two separate entities, right? It's a struggle to identify. That's why people kept saying she needs to identify herself. She didn't identify herself. But the campaign identified her. Beyonce identified her. The campaign did all the stuff right to identify her, but she didn't
fill that gap. Yeah, especially when they're like the campaign, she's joy, and then all she could do was cackle, and you're like, that's not joy.
Right, exactly. See, it's you didn't get to see that other side. You didn't get to see who she was as a person.
We didn't get to see her on Joe Rogan. That's why.
And one more thing, even right. Trump said, "Look, you may hate me, but a vote for me is a vote for RFK." Now, I hope he doesn't screw RFK, but I'm still waiting for him to appoint RFK to something. Hopefully, it's like special advisor because he won't get Senate confirmed. But RFK, right? And a vote for me is a vote for Tulsi, right? So far, he hasn't put Tulsi in anything. A vote for me is a vote for Vivek. Okay, great, he's there. Vote for me is a vote for Elon, right? Yeah. Great. And today those were not nominated to Dodge, I guess those two, which is great.
Yeah, I think Ron Paul's not nominated, but he's probably an advisor to both of them.
I think Trump will eventually. I think Elon will say, "Hey, can we bring in Ron Paul? I promised him I would bring him." So. And Trump will say, "Okay, fine, I'll make Ron Paul as an advisor to the president." Because Dodge is not really there's not really an agency called Dodge.
So, I know.
Yeah. So Vivek Ramaswamy would become considered strategic advisor to the president for government efficiency, and then you have Elon would be strategic advisor to the president for government efficiency, right? And so those two would work together, and they would call it the pseudonym Department of Government Efficiency.
And I'm going to get rich because my crypto is going to skyrocket through the roof.
I should have bought some Dodge too. But
yeah, you should have like a week ago.
I know.
It's blown up now.
It's too much money now to buy it, but I should have before. But
too much money now? It's up to 35 cents.
That's it?
That's it.
Oh, wow, okay.
It's 35
What did it jump up from? $1? From 1 cent?
It's been hanging around 10 to 12 cents for like the past year.
Really?
I bought it back before when it was a fraction of a cent.
When do you think it'll go way above that?
I'm hoping it hits $1 this year. It's already jumped. It doesn't matter. But yeah, I think it'll hit $1, but before the end of the year. That's
what do you buy it on Coinbase?
You can buy it on Coinbase. You can buy it on Robinhood. You can buy it on anything like that.
Yeah, I gotta go. I'm on Robinhood, so I'll go on
Yeah,
there.
try it out. Anyway, I think the Doge thing is a great idea. I don't know. Here's the thing about me, because I'm not much of a politic guy. You know that. I'm a culture guy. Like all my stuff is culture stuff. So I don't flow in those things. So all these cabinet picks, none of them really ring the bell in my head. Be like, oh, that's a good choice or that's a bad choice. To be honest, I wasn't expecting a lot when Trump coming in, and from what I hear, I gather from people that I know who know what good choices are, and I'm fine with riding that out. But at this point in time, um, I'm just happy it's not. And this sounds bad. I'm just happy it's not Kamala. Uh,
Well, I'll
that's
say this.
that's how bad of a campaign she ran.
If it comes out, so far they've announced everything, every rumor that came out recently. Kind of, they've announced some of them. Like Krispy Noam just became
Did you
this.
call her Crispy Gnome?
Yeah, Krispy Noam.
Are
Because
you a fan of hers or no?
no, she used
No.
to hang out with Krispy Kreme a lot.
Wait, Christy Gnome. She's the one who put her dogs down.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
And
wait, what they missed?
he made her secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. So, but she's a governor. A lot of people like she's
True.
a governor, so she's going to resign and let the next guy come up, and that's what Trump wants. Let the next guy come up,
Yeah.
and then she's out. Because the problem is, once they leave this, you can't say I was a secretary. Now I'm going to go back to congressman, or go back to this one. Now I got to go to a think tank and make money that way. I do something else.
Yeah, they should put her as the head of veterinary clinics. She just put dogs down. That's funny that he brought her in. I still, again, like, he could pick people. I don't want the Warhawks in, but that's my libertarian side coming.
Well, that's where if he chose Rubio for Secretary of State, I'm a little upset. What's interesting is he announced the rumors yesterday, but he didn't announce the Rubio one.
Wait, he announced the rumors. He didn't come out with a statement?
No. He announced the statements for everything except for Rubio.
Do you think that's just to kind of sway the Senate?
Maybe, or maybe it's he because you would announce Rubio, that would get the Senate united, right? Yeah. But he didn't announce Rubio, so maybe the Rubio is actually a rumor that he was doing crowd testing to see what people wanted.
Well, according to Twitter, it's a terrible idea.
But he also nominated today and announced it for Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth.
Yeah, I don't know who that guy is.
That's the guy from Fox and Friends.
I didn't watch that.
Okay, go on, just Google it and say like Pete Hegseth, and you'll see him. You're like, who the fuck is this guy?
Yeah.
And then I thought about it. I said, he needs to clean up the military. You need a hired gun that's that can go back to doing media or something afterwards.
I see. Yeah,
so bring him in there, let him clean house, right? Let him, fire the Joint Chiefs of Staff, let him change around all this stuff, let him fix all this shit in there, right? And then he has no political capital that he lost. He's not running for office, right? And then Fox News brings him back later, or he works in some media later, but he's famous for doing it, and MAGA love him, and he moves forward. A lot of people are upset saying that like he never served. He served, but he was like a low-ranking guy. So how the hell can you put him? It wasn't like a major or like, hey, it's supposed to be, Department of Defense is supposed to be civilian run. It's not supposed to be,
that makes sense.
Yeah, it's supposed to be civilian run, or meaning non-military person should be running the military. So, we'll see. But I'm curious on that one. I want to see these. What this person has to say, and if he's going to be on Fox and Friends tomorrow, because he's a host. I
bet he'll be on there. He's going to want to talk about that. People are going to have questions for him for sure.
Yeah. So
this is the thing about the Trump campaign that I watched that I thought was important. That I think is a question I have for you about when it comes to consulting. The McDonald's thing that Trump did, the thing that I thought that was the most important of that is watching clips of it. He genuinely looked like he was having fun. Like, he genuinely enjoyed it. And anytime I see him interact with people, like normal people, not, not Rosie O'Donnell and not, fake news, not people that are fake news, he's very harsh to them. But when it comes to average Americans, your everyday Americans, even when it seems like what the stories you were telling, he's very kind and very kind. Like, he actually seems passionate about what he does. And I thought that was interesting because even after they took a shot at him and hit his ear, he didn't come out differently in a sense where he was like, we got to win this because they're coming after me. He kept his cool, and his message never changed. Like, we just want to make America great again. It wasn't like they tried to kill me and so we're going to get back at them. It was, I just want America to be better. That passion thing that comes in seems to me is what wins people over for him. It won me over. It seems like he really is being authentic and it really is passionate. When it comes to business owning and consulting, like if guys struggling to keep his business up, how often do you look at passion as part of it? Do you ever run into people that are like, this is my business. How do tell me how to solve it, Naveen? I hate this stupid thing.
Yeah, I do. And a lot of the business owners that I meet that are like that are people that look at their business as a job.
Okay.
And that means that your job starts, it has a start and it has an end, right? A business doesn't have a start and an end. You're always working.
Always.
Right?
Yeah.
And so when you treat your business like a job, you won't succeed. If you treat your business like a business, what does it mean? It means that your business, you have to be willing to take risks, but not risks financially. Everyone thinks risk means financially. You have to be willing to take risks in terms of concepts, in terms of losing sleep, in terms of gaining weight, in terms of doing whatever you need to do that allows you to stay on track to running your business in your personal life. Okay. You may have to take risks with the business. Hey, you know what? Let's try this new industry. Oh shit. You can't have FOF, fear of failure. You can't have fear of failure. Right. And so I meet all these people and they're like low energy, and you're like, how do you succeed? Well, they succeed. And there are business owners like this that do really well because they have a team of people that know how.
That are doing it.
And so the how keeps them going for some time. But like, for example, the example that this guy, Simon Sinek gives in his book, Gateway's a big business. Dell is a huge company, right? But they'll never be Apple.
Yeah.
Right? So they made a lot of money and they continue to make money and they continue to do great, but they'll never be Apple. And why? Because Apple knows why. These guys were great how guys. Now they're trying to be why guys a little bit, but it's a little bit late because now your why isn't resonating with others. There are some that have their click saying, I only like Dell, I only like Dell. But they're few and far between, right? Same thing with Samsung. You see, like I have friends of mine that will wait online hours. I used to be one of them that will wait online for hours for like the new iPhone. They're like, oh my God, look at this. My friend goes, bro, I had the Samsung, dude. I had that like 2 years ago. Like, fuck you doing? I'm like, you don't have an Apple, bro. They're like, what do you mean? You don't got the blue check. I got the blue check. You don't. And they're like, oh, what's wrong with you? And then later you see them like, show me that blue check. And
yeah.
And so it's a stigma thing. And so when you build your brand, even if you lack in some areas, like for example, Kamala Harris should have been able to sell the no tax on tips thing really well, even though she stole it from Trump.
Yeah.
But because she didn't understand that she came second in it, but how to embrace it and make it hers. Like when Apple launches something that is already there on Android, they make a big fucking deal about it.
That's true. Yeah.
Like she could have had a press conference with all of these cashiers and waitresses and stuff like that and said like, how do tax go here? She could have led that meeting saying like, how does no tax on tips affect you? What is happening with it? She could have ran a round table.
Yeah.
And had these people there and ask them questions, right? Or, bring someone on stage and say you're a cashier, right? How much are you paying, tips on your taxes regularly? Oh, I pay like 60%. I'm like, oh my God. Well, now we're going to remove that. Wow. Make it your own. And people go, wow. And then they'll remember Kamala said that.
Yeah.
Go, no, but Trump said it before. He said, she said, whatever. She did it better. It's like, who did it better?
Yeah.
That's what it is. Who did it better?
Yeah. If you can, I mean, Trump kind of had first and best dressed, but she could have came in second with better dressed, and she didn't do it at all.
And she would have stolen the show
from
him. But instead, what she did, she always was following, never leading. Why? Because she wasn't able to take a concept and own it, because it tells you she really didn't understand or mean those concepts. Yeah. See, if someone's not authentic, authenticity is so important in a business leader.
Yeah, but you can't manufacture that.
Exactly. You have to be authentic in who you are. But authenticity is not just about the business you're doing or the campaign you're running. It's about authenticity in who you are.
Yeah, I agree. 100%.
If you're not authentic in who you are, how are you going to succeed? If you're watching this video and you're thinking, okay, I'm running a business and I want to be successful and I want to do this stuff, Are you authentic to you? Do you know why you want to do it? Not why I want to build a business. That's a mistake. People go, what's your why? Well, why do I want to build a business? Well, I want to make money. Well, I want to do this. Well, I want to. Well,
See,
those are
that's a bad why. That's
those
a
are
terrible why.
why. What is your, like an example, right? If I tell you that, I want to build a business that my daughter can have everything she wants in her life. And you know what? Let me tell you, I envision a world where my daughter later is able to come, set up a meeting like this, have her own podcast, run the podcast, be able to do anything she wants when she wants, get any car she wants, build the house, 10-foot home, 10-foot ceilings in her home, and all this kind of stuff. Why can't she do that? Right? I want that life. She has to have that life.
Yeah,
How do I do that? How do I build that life for her? Right? That's why I'm building this. So she is my why. And so I always tell people, get something called a dream board.
Right? Oh, yeah. I remember these.
And if you can snip this piece from your thing, this is a great thing to say. A dream board is so powerful because you put pictures of the place you want to go on vacation, places where you want to hang out, right? People you want to meet, right? You put that on a board and you look at it, but don't put it on a board in the corner of the room. Tape it to your freaking mirror in the bathroom.
Yeah.
Right? And you visualize where you are and you say, okay, this is what I want to do. And then that should inspire. If that doesn't inspire you to do something and get up and move, you're useless.
Yeah. What do you have? What do you have going forward? No, I agree, man. Hey, man, I absolutely love this conversation. I wish we would have talked about Good Will Hunting a little bit longer. That's legit one of my favorite movies.
And I gotta head out in a minute or two. I gotta put my daughter to sleep. But
no, that's awesome. Thanks for coming on and chatting with me.
Hey, no problem. We should do, or you should do at least, a podcast on just Good Will Hunting. I mean, really break it down.
I've seen it enough to where I probably could break it down. I probably could actually do that. Yeah. I might do that. Yeah, I might do that. That sounds fun.
Yes.
All right, Naveen.
Okay. All right.
I appreciate it, man. Later.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks, everybody, tuning into this episode of Pardon Will Podcast. That's my friend Naveen. Great guy. I love chatting with him, especially when we start to get to stuff that I want to talk about, like Good Will Hunting. Anyway, I thought that was pretty inspiring, especially when it came off the back end of this election. It's nice to not only talk about politics, but also how it moves in everyday life. And so I really enjoyed that conversation. I hope you did too. Don't forget to like and subscribe on whatever you're listening to this or watching this on or whatever. You know the drill. And also tune in on Sunday nights, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Your boy is going live. You can hop up in there. Leave comments. Sometimes I read them. Sometimes I talk to people in the chat. It's always a fun time. We watch clips and make jokes, and it's just a cool way to decompress right before the beginning of the week. So make sure to tune into that. But everything else, always here at Pardon Will. You can follow me on all X and all that stuff too at Pardon Will Art, and you can find me at pardonwill.com. Anyway, appreciate you guys tuning in, and I will see you back here next time. Bye.